This video is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com and GatheringMagic.com, your place to explore the game.
Hi, my name is Vegar and this is my Sliver Queen Super Friends deck. Alright, starting off with the commander, Sliver Queen. She's in here to make tokens to protect my planeswalkers. And she also serves as an alternative win condition. Being a 7/7, she can rank up some commander damage pretty fast. For lands we run the original dual lands. The shock lands. The fetch lands. Some rainbows, command tower, mana confluence, and City of Brass. Some utility lands, we have the Tabernacle. It gives creatures upkeep. Mace of Ith untaps an attacker. Strip Mine destroys some troublesome lands. There are no basics in this deck, mainly because I've been getting away with not running them. And I think that you could take out some of these lands and run basics if your meta is a little more aggressive on that front, but yeah. It's been working out for me. It's easier to get the color fixing doing it like this. For some ramp spells we have Mana Crypt and Sol Ring. You have Farseek, Nature's Lore, and 3 Wizards. And these are great because they are cheap and they get a dual land into play. You have Crucible of Worlds, which works great with the fetch lands. You pretty much ensure a land drop every turn, and you also make for some shuffling effect with Jace the Mind Sculptor and Senses Divining Top. Mirari's Wake doubles my mana and pumps my tokens. For some draw we have Senses Divining Top and Scroll Rack, and these are great with the fetch lands. Being able to, with the Scroll Rack, exchange your hand for the same amount of cards and shuffling it away if you didn't need it. So it's great in here. And Sylvan Library, Phyrexian Arena, Rhystic Study, and Necropotence. All permanents that hopefully will stay in play and net me some cards. You might be surprised to see Necropotence in this deck because it's not a typical deck that wants to combo off. But you know, I don't draw 20 cards with this. I just refill my hand to 7 every turn, and yeah, it's a card per life. So that's pretty decent. And my only X spell, it draws me cards and gains me some much needed life. Between the shock lands, the fetch lands, and Necropotence, I could run low on life sometimes, so it's good to have this thing to refill some of it. For tutors we have Imperial Seal, it gets any card. Vampiric Tutor does the same, and Demonic Tutor as well. Wargate is great throughout the game. It gets me a land early game, and it can get me a Planeswalker into play later in the game, so it's always good. Academy Rector is in here to die, because when she dies she gets an enchantment into play, and the most common target for her is Doubling Season, but you can also get Mirari's Wake if you need mana, Humility if you want to shut down some creatures, so she's very versatile. For some removal I run Chaos Warp. It was a lot better before when it could tuck commanders, but it's still a very decent and fun removal spell because you can use it on, say, one of your tokens to try and flip something crazy off the top of your own library. and that makes for some fun plays. Vindicate is a catch-all removal. Maelstrom Pulse is the same. It doesn't hit lands, but it hits token armies. Other end exiles a non-land permanent at instant speed. Supreme Verdict, it's my only 4 mana Wrath spell in this deck, and I run it over the others because this one can't be countered, and that has come up as relevant many times. Hallowed Burial, which is maybe one of the best Wrath spells. It was even better before when it tucked all the commanders on the battlefield, but it's still a very decent card. It gets around indestructible and stuff like that. Austere Command is the most versatile of the removal spells. You can really turn it into a one-sided Wrath effect, and it hits so many different things. Merciless Eviction also hits different things, but it exiles them, and that can be very relevant sometimes. Decree of Pain is rather expensive, but it draws you some cards for each creature you hit, and that can be very needed later in the game. Obliterate is my only mass land destruction spell, amongst other things. It's great because it hits everything but planeswalkers and enchantments, which really are the permanents that I want to keep in play. I don't run Jokel Hops or Decree of Annihilation because I really don't want to be that guy that goes for the land destruction. I usually play this to end the game that's been going on for a while. I don't just play it to be mean. Now for some utilities / creature hate stuff. We have Torpor Orb, which stops early mana dorks from fetching lands, and it stops Terrastodon from stepping on my planeswalkers. The Abyss destroys a creature on every upkeep. Humility is the creature shutdown card. It makes every creature a 1/1 and takes away their abilities. It makes for some rules discussions regarding timestamp effects and the like, but my opponents are usually okay with me playing this card. Moat prevents flying creatures from attacking. Privileged Position, it protects my other permanents, and what's great about this is that the opponents usually have to answer this before they can do anything about my other permanents. And my planeswalkers are usually subject to spot removal. There are some mass removal cards that take them out regardless, but this has really been good at protecting the Super Friends, so yeah. And Omniscience is probably one of the most hated cards in this deck. Makes all my permanents, or all my cards actually, free of charge, so yeah. Getting this out and dropping my entire hand on the battlefield can be pretty devastating. For some recursion, we have Regrowth. It returns any card to my hand. Yawgmoth's Will. It's certainly not a Yawgmoth's Win in this deck, but you know, it's cheap, and playing it you can replay a fetch land, you can replay a Soul Ring, a Tutor, and maybe even a Planeswalker. So it's I think it's a great value. And in this deck I run some Time Walk effects. I run Time Warp, Temporal Manipulation, and Capture of Jingshaw. And I run these over proliferation effects, because I've been playing with proliferation for a while, and I think it's slow. When I have them in my hand, I usually have to or want to play something else. And I just think that these cards give you so much more value. Being able to take another turn, you know, involves drawing a card and tapping your lands, activating your planeswalkers, which is pretty much the same as proliferating, only you even get the effect one more time. So I think these are just so much more versatile. And for some Planeswalker enablers, we have the Rings of Brighthearth. It doubles an ability. We have the Chain Whale, which is the second reason why I don't run any proliferation cards in this deck, because I just think this is so much better. Doubling Season is pretty much the heart of this deck. It enables my Planeswalkers to activate their ultimate abilities right off the bat, and it also doubles the amount of tokens that enter the battlefield. And finally we have the Super Friends, the Planeswalkers. You have Jace Beleren, which draws you cards. We have Jace the Mind Sculptor. I most commonly use his Brainstorm ability to help me with my draws, and sometimes I bounce a creature. Jace, Architect of Thought. I most commonly use his Bribery ability to get some crazy stuff right off the bat with Doubling Season. But his other abilities are also great. His -1/-0 on all creatures is great with Humility, and his Factor Friction ability allows me to draw cards. Elspeth, Knight Errant. She makes a soldier. She pumps a creature. It's really fun to pump up the Sliver Queen and send her in as a 10/10 flyer with her. But the emblem is the most sought after ability, making everything indestructible. And you can do that right away with Doubling Season. Kiora, the Crashing Wave. She's been amazing in this deck actually, even though she comes in with only 2 in loyalty. If you get her out early, she will protect you against creatures, and she will draw your cards and allow you to play additional lands. And if you should be so lucky to get her emblem off, you get a Kraken every end step, and that's pretty cracking. Ral Zarek, he can also time warp with his ultimate right away with the Doubling Season, but he also untaps permanents, for instance the Chain Veil, and he also deals some direct damage, which not many cards in this deck do. Garruk, Wildspeaker, he untaps lands to fix colors and also ramp. He makes a beast token, and he can also overrun with your token army. Narset is one of the newest additions to this deck, being that she just came out, but she was just an auto-include. All her abilities are very good in this deck. With her first ability, you usually get to draw a card. With her second ability, you can rebound a Time Walk, a Demonic Tutor, a Vindicate, and her emblem usually wins you the game, because what this deck deals with most easily is creatures, and allowing the opponent to only cast creatures can be pretty devastating. A Johnny Vengeant, he prevents a permanent from untapping, he deals some damage and gains you some life, and he can be a one-sided Armageddon. Sorin, Lord of Innistrad, is my token guy. He makes lifelinking vampires, and he makes emblems to permanently pump my tokens. His ultimate can be achieved with Doubling Season, and you know, it could be good to destroy some planeswalkers or some creatures. But usually I use him for his creature making and creature pumping abilities. Tezzeret the Seeker, he tutors for artifacts. What I usually do with him is I get the Briggs of Brighthearth, and on the second turn I use his tutor ability for 1, and I double it with the rings and get Soul Ring and Sensei's Divining Top into play. Tamiyo the Moonsage, she taps down a permanent and prevents it from untapping. Her emblem says that you, if you have a card enter your graveyard from anywhere, you can put it back to your hand. So you can recast your tutors every turn, you can recast your Time Walks, and that's usually a win condition. And a fun thing to do is, if you have her emblem, you can cast Jace, Architect of Thought, and just bribery out the best cards from your opponent's libraries every turn. Liliana Vess, she's my tutor engine, and that's what I mainly use her for. It's also fun to use her ultimate after having played a long game of destroying creatures, and now suddenly you put them on the battlefield to fight for you. Sarkhan Unbroken is my other new addition to this deck. Not as good as Narset, but being able to draw a card, add a mana of any color to my mana pool in a 5-color deck is pretty decent. And I really like that he makes a big flying token, because this deck can be weak against flying, so it's good to have some blockers for that. I'll never be able to activate his ultimate, but I think his other abilities are worth running him. The Fairy Temporal Archmage, he's tailor-made for this deck, I think. He draws cards, he untaps a lot of permanents, and his ultimate allows you to activate your Planeswalkers on the opponent's turns. And that can be pretty unfair. Elspeth Sun's champion, she wins games on her own. She makes 3 soldier dudes, and she can destroy big creatures, and she sends your tokens into the air and flying, +2/+2. Yeah, so she's been really great. Sorin Markov is being considered the most unfair Planeswalker, but I don't abuse his abilities. I like to mind Sliver an opponent, but I don't really abuse his other ability of putting in life to 10, so my opponents are usually okay with me running him, and I like his damage and gain life ability as well. Karn Liberated, he's in here to exile things, and he does a great job with that. I will never activate his ultimate because I don't think that's very fun, but exiling cards from a hand or from play is very good. Nicobola's Planeswalker, he destroys non-creature permanents, he steals creatures, and his ultimate is pretty nerve-wracking for the opponent, and that's pretty cool for me. And finally we have Ugin the Spirit Dragon, which I can say is my favorite card in this deck. I love getting him out and getting his ultimate off right away. Also fun to double that with Rings of Bright Earth. And exiling permanents, colored permanents, is just mind-blowingly good. And his first ability is also very relevant, dealing some damage to a creature or a player, getting rid of those small but annoying commanders. Yeah, so he's my favorite win condition actually, because it's usually a win with his ultimate. Yeah, so that was my deck. I hope you enjoyed it. There are certainly different ways to run a Super Friends deck, but I found this one to be my favorite. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comments, and thank you. Thank you for watching CMDR decks. Please subscribe and favorite.